Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Brandon Fogel. This is Evolution. We're going to take a look at a conversation that Andrew Tate had with Nick Fuentes yesterday. It was very good. A lot of things came out that I was curious the way it was going to go because I've been watching a lot of Nick Fuentes back in the day. I had watched a lot of Andrew Tate. I'm familiar with both of them. And I was wondering, these two guys getting together, very, you could say, masculine. They go against culture. They wear their emotions on their sleeve. They say the craziest things. They're not afraid of anything. Them two and Alex Jones, I would argue, are the most canceled people on the planet. At this point in time, Nick Fuentes is the most canceled person. He's being brought back, and it's a lot from his own doing, maybe missteps by other people. Andrew Tate has served time in jail based on things he's said, and you could say he's been put through the ringer and through the fire. They've all been tested. These guys have all been tested. We're also going to take a look at, I don't know if you've heard this, the Red Heifer has been sacrificed legitimately in Israel. This is something that we've been waiting for a long time. The Jews have been waiting for a very long time. And even the church, there's a lot of viewpoints. Before I even jump into that, I just wanted to say that we are going to go through that because that sparks something that might be on the horizon. So buckle up and be ready. At least take notice of it. You should at least take notice of it because it is a very huge monumental event. We're going to take a look at that as well. But let's get into this. This is yesterday's conversation with Nick Fuentes and Andrew Tate. And this is where it kind of turned. Andrew went at which I am kind of the opinion that Nick is he is making enemies of everyone, and his movement, the Groypers movement, I would say it seems like they're a little bit too sensitive, and if you say anything that doesn't go in lockstep with them, it seems like they will try to, for lack of a better term, crucify you. All right, but let's take a look at this. What Andrew has to say about it is pretty interesting.
And I make a joke of it. All of the replies is, well, now you're a Jew, you're a race-mixing Jew, you work for the Jews. And I just think that is counterproductive to the good fight and counterproductive to your movement. That's my actual view.
At the same time, though, you got to recognize that if you're going to rage bait, you can't really be mad when people get mad. You know what I mean?
Mad. I think it's hilarious. Yeah. I think it's funny. I mean, I call my all day long. I think it's funnier than it. I love trolling. I'm all for it. I'm just saying that if we're going to try and have a serious political movement here, then calling every single person a Jew because of some tedious or tenuous link, I think is disingenuous. I think that, and again, this is just my personal view, and I don't know enough. Since I got released from house arrest after 3 years in my house in February, I haven't been online that much. And I noticed you said I didn't weigh in on the Candace Tucker thing. I'm not versed enough to truly weigh in. I haven't seen every video. I haven't seen all of it. I haven't seen the back and forth.
And so, first of all, I want to give props to Myron Gaines. This is his channel. He's the one who was facilitating this conversation. I'm not too familiar with Myron, but he seems like a hilarious guy. Even when they got done with their stream and the things him going back and forth, he went on for a while afterwards. It was hilarious. He's very fun to watch. So I had to throw that out there, but I didn't want to just forget about that. You could see that just Andrew saying this to Nick, it seemed like it struck a nerve. And the more I see Nick, it seems like he's got a little bit of thin skin. He can throw grenades like hell. He has no fear. This is a guy that has no fear. Both of these men have no fear for anything. And they're able to articulate everything very precisely. But I see what Nick is doing and his whole movement. I mean, pretty much he's the guy, he's the head of it. And I don't know if it's just lack of maturity, because there is a sense where I think he's very young, 26, I believe. I mean, that your brain's not even fully formed, it seems like, until you hit that age. And I think a lot of the things he's just doing, wearing everything on his sleeve, and he's just making enemies of everyone. And he's very easy, like he'll snap back if someone comes at him. He'll come at them 10 times harder. So, and I think that is the impression that he has left with his Groypers movement, that these guys are ultra sensitive about everything. Like if somebody says anything, they can't take a joke sometimes. and they think it's the most serious thing in the world. And if you don't align in perfect harmony with everything they think, say, or believe, you are going to be like thrown into the fire of their viewpoint. And I think because this is what Andrew was getting at, they are, and what Nick is doing, he is making enemies of everyone. And he didn't want to say it's political, it's infighting or anything, because Nick, he's been on the outside for the longest time. And he's just now coming to the party. And he says this over, I don't know if he said this on Alex Jones' show, but he was kind of like, if they won't give me a spot at the table, I'm turning the table over. I think I'm very drawn to Nick because he is like a real life version of the Joker. And he even talks about that himself because he's like, I'm like a dog chasing a car. I wouldn't know what to do with it if I did catch it. And that's how I'm seeing Nick. Like, I'm seeing him voice a lot of just concern and being upset about everything and just hating the system and wanting to burn it to the ground. But I don't see him as really bringing any solutions. And if he wants to just cut ties and burn bridges with everyone, I think that's the lack of maturity that he does not have yet. And maybe he's playing that 5-dimensional chess or whatever. But I want to let them continue, because out of these two men, I saw Andrew Tate he was the one who came across as he's older. He seemed more reasonable and had that wisdom element that I don't see Nick has at this point. But of course, but I also saw that Andrew seemed like he was a little bit fearful and almost very hesitant of where he treaded talking around Nick. Because with the whole Candace and Tucker situation, Nick will come at you like guns blazing, and he will, and he'll do it with a smile on his face and hilarious the whole way through. And I don't think, and Andrew, I think he wanted to be very careful. This whole conversation, I thought it seemed like he was walking on eggshells around Nick, and he wanted to end it with a very good salute, see you later at the end. He didn't want it to come away that he didn't want to give Nick any ammunition to come at him when this conversation was over. It seemed like that. He was very careful with his words and his demeanor, his whole presentation in talking to Nick. But I'm going to let them continue, because this is where some straight up wisdom gets dropped by Andrew Tate.
I've been with my children living my life. However, I would argue that Tucker has red-pilled a lot of people who would never watch your show about very important things that are happening in the American government that you'd agree with. I would say the same for Candace. I'd think of them on the good side of the fight. And perhaps this is going to get me in trouble. I think of them as good people trying to do the best thing they can, which is tell their version of the truth. And they're by and large on our side. And I think this infinite, divisible, constant infighting, constant looking for who's the most base, constantly saying, well, he's done 99 things right, but this one thing makes him a Jew. I just think it's holding us back by and large.
Now, these two guys, I mean, I got to say up front, I'm not the guy that's the kind of the overly critical like everyone else in our culture is about Jewish people and about Israel. I am not with these guys on that. And that's kind of the label that Andrew is saying that the Groypers throw at him. You're just a Jew. You're just a Jew, because he makes a joke. He trolls them a bit. So I got to throw that out there. But I do see where he's coming from, because he's saying that they're throwing just gasoline on the fire when he says anything that just doesn't line up perfectly with what their whole lockstep viewpoint is of this world and culture and how to change. I don't see any change from them. I just see let's burn it all to the ground kind of thing.
That's my personal view, but it's not my movement. So I'm just saying what I see it as from the outside.
Well, and maybe that's where the disagreement lies, because I talked with Alex Jones about this yesterday. We didn't even plan on talking about it, but he brought it up. Obviously, I'm in this big feud with both Candace and Tucker Carlson right now, and I see it being characterized on Twitter by some people as infighting. And I would agree with you. I would tend to agree with you that if I were an outside observer, I would look at Candace and Tucker and myself, and I would think we're all on the same side. We're all pushing in the same direction. Certainly, we're all criticizing Israel. We're all against the war in Iran and the rest of it. And that's what I would tend to think. And yet, when I went out and did Candace's show, instead of talking about what we had in common, she wanted to talk about all the things that we had apart. And she in particular wanted to press me on if I really hated Jews and if I was really a racist. So that confounded me, because if I'm an outside objective observer, maybe without all the information, I would say, wait, aren't Candace Tucker and Nick on the same side? But being me, I went to do her show with my suit on, ready to talk about the Iran war, the neocons, all this kind of stuff. And she's pressing me, why do you hate Dave Smith? Is it because he's Jewish? Do you hate Jews for being
Okay, so right there,
Jewish?
We're going to switch it up a little bit. But so the best thing in the world that happened to Nick Fuentes is Candace Owens. And I believe he knows that. He's been going on and on for about a week or so and just like railing on her, and he won't. He'll probably have another sit down with him. He's just riding this wave, this wave that has been given to him. It's been a blessing for him because it opened up everything. It unlocked everything, especially when Tucker just tore into Nick Fuentes. This is out of the blue for no reason, and it was very startling. And I think that Andrew, he likes Candace and he likes Tucker. He doesn't want to get into this whole fight. And I think a lot of people, you got to have some type of alliance. Everyone isn't just an enemy. You can't just have an enemy for everyone. Otherwise, how are you going to get anything done? How are you actually going to make any roads that lead to anywhere good? And I think that's where I love what Nick's doing. He can tear everything down, but I don't see him as able to build anything up. And maybe I think sometimes, because the big reason about all this is I think that the whole Trump situation, because he is so absolutely like dead set, everything that Donald Trump does is wrong, bad. He can't do anything right. And this might come out of left field to anybody listening to this, but to me it seems like he was very disenfranchised by Donald Trump with what happened at January 6th, because Nick Fuentes he was a J6er. He went to the rally, and that's why he brought up all the receipts of everything that happened. He wasn't going to go, but he ended up going there. He didn't do anything wrong. He didn't do anything illegal. He stayed off the grounds that you weren't supposed to. He wasn't a part of the riots, and he's made that absolutely clear. But what I would say, and someone that I would agree with Nick, and I feel like I have almost a connection with him in this, and I might be completely wrong, Nick. If you listen to this, let me know if I'm wrong. That when Donald Trump didn't stand with the J6ers, the people that were at that rally, and he kind of just left them out to dry, and he went and did his own thing, and he didn't have the back of all those people. I mean, everything since then, and what he's able to come around and actually come back into the White House, and he's able to make good on what he did, where he kind of left them out to dry. But I think Nick going through the ringer of everything that happened to him, I think he's been almost that he has a unwillingness to forgive Donald Trump for what he did in that time. And that's the way I'm seeing it with Donald Trump, when he just kind of turned his back on everyone and just went his own way. He stepped out of the White House. He didn't storm the Capitol like everyone else did. And maybe I think that is where Nick is being he can't get back on board with anything Trump does is good. That's the way that I'm seeing it. And I see that is the lens that he is seeing everything through, that no one can do anything good. Everyone's an enemy. You have suspicion on everyone, and anyone that you get close to, you're almost going to somehow find something wrong to fight about. It feels like that. And I don't know if that's just that lack of maturity where he's at, what he's been through, because this guy has been through hell. He's been through hell, and he's come out on top. It's so, for me, it's very intriguing, everything about him. It's because I like the way he approaches everything. This is the way that I would approach everything. That he can just call everything as it is and what it is. He's not scared of anyone. But at the same time, that doesn't, just not being scared of everyone doesn't mean you're going to make any good, wholesome change to what going forward. And if he all he wants to do is just tear everything down and melt it all down, I mean, to be honest, at the core, I would be okay with that. Whatever. Let's start from scratch. 1776, let's start over. Revolution. I'm actually good with that. If someone is not, if the power structures up there are like doing something that is not right, I completely agree with protest and just bring them to their knees type of thing. I agree with that. But it's like where we're at, I don't see him as actually making a difference in this point in time. Maybe he's thinking longer game, but to be honest, I think he's just riding the wave right now. I think he's just riding the wave and he's just figuring things out because he's just now been just thrown into all of this and he's making a difference. He's making a difference. He's definitely turning heads. And I know some people are just, they're going to ride or die with Nick no matter what. And I mean, I would be the same way. But I've made my opinions very clear about the whole Israel thing. And that is what throws me under the bus with everyone because it's not the cool thing to do. Nick was ahead of the game because he criticized Israel. He was all about against Israel way before it became cool. And now everybody popular it hates Israel, and they want to like because they see the Jews just having this cabal over everyone. And he was ahead of the game in that, but I still think I think he was misguided on that. I think he is misguided on that because I mean, at the end of the day, you can rail on Israel, you can rail on Jews. It's not going to change the fact that they are going to be the superpower. Like it or love it, hate it or not, they're going to be the superpower in this world. When the Messiah comes, when Jesus Christ comes, Nick, the Jews are going to be the superpower in this world. So it's like, that's why before Jesus ascended to heaven, the apostles said, are you at this time going to restore the kingdom to Israel? And Jesus said, it is not for you to know the times or the seasons. That was 2,000 years ago. And that was top of mind. You got one question to ask Jesus before he leaves. What are you going to ask? That was their question. Israel will be the supreme power, the superpower in this world. So I would say just get ready for it. But it's not going to be now. I'm not saying now. I'm not saying Netanyahu's riding the horse or whatever. I'm saying Jesus Christ, because he is the Israel. He is Israel, and he is the king that will come. So I'm not saying Netanyahu in this time and period. I think there's going to be mass persecution and hatred against the Jews and wanting to burn them to the ground and wanting to destroy them. I think that is pretty near future kind of thing. But after they will be, when Jesus returns, when he comes back and he makes peace with the nation, his nation, because he is a Jew, he is Israel. When he makes peace with them, that is when the age of Messiah will happen. And we get a glimpse of that in the book of Revelation, the 1,000-year reign. Israel will be the hub at the center of everything, of geopolitical infrastructure and everything in this world. They will be the main nation and kingdom on earth. But that's not going to wipe out every other nation. There's still going to be other nations. But they are going to be the central hub of everything. And the law will go forth from Zion. And that's what's going to happen. And the kingdom will be here on earth for that 1,000-year period. Then we're going to roll into the new heavens and new earth. But I just want people, because a lot of people are not even familiar with any of this, that this is coming, no matter whether you like it or not, whether you want to hear it or not, no matter how stupid it might seem, it's coming. All right, so I wanted to start off with Nick and Tate because I thought it was wonderful. You should go check out. I put a link into that whole discussion, and just watching Myron, he is a hilarious dude. You should check him out as well. All right, I want to skip over to, this is the red heifer has been sacrificed. All right, so this was talked about on Tim Kest's show. Tim actually, he's not been in there all week, it seems like, but he missed a hell of a discussion of what happened in talking about this. I don't know the guy's name who they brought on there. I think his name's Adam because I think that's how they're going to start it off. But he got into, they actually legitimately, ritually, legally, all the fun stuff, sacrificed a true red heifer in Israel. So let's hear it. Let's hear this out.
Adam, you came in and you have a story to break about the red heifer.
Right.
Could you go ahead and elaborate on that, please?
Right. So this was a big thing over at InfoWars and on the dissident right media for the longest time, the Jew hate media. Yeah. Do you have my tweet that I actually put on my So I basically, what happened, if you want to go to the first slide first before we play the video, about a month ago on July 1st,
that one, right?
there was an announcement that they were going to do a practice run of the Red Heifer. And prior to this, the media outrage that the Jews were going to go do this Red Heifer, you had these lunatics like Stu Peters and others who were saying, this is going to usher in the Antichrist, blah, blah, blah. And it was like a real big media balagan. It was really a bad twist. So they said that and also the government wasn't going to let them. So what they did was they said, we're just going to do a practice one with one of the 5 disqualified cows. The government said, okay, whatever. They ended up going out, doing a real cow. One of the cow's name was Tikva. They made the offering, and it was a real offering. They did it all by the laws, and I have with me some of the ashes right here, Red Heifer ashes, and it's pretty incredible. The Red Heifer, the last time that the Red Heifer was done was over 2,000 years ago. The first time it was done by Moses. The second time it was done by Ezra from the book in the Bible. And that shows you how long the ashes can last for. So a pure red heifer doesn't come about all the time. And in this generation, we had 21 of them that were born. Pure.
Okay, so this is this whole conversation because he's Jewish. This guy we're talking right there, he's Jewish. And a lot of the men in the room, it would seem like, I don't know what Phil is. I don't know like his position or anything like that. But a lot of the guys in the room seem like they're just regular, real Christians. And this is the difference, because within Christianity, there's all this different viewpoint of, you interpret that way, I interpret it this way. Everybody sees things different. But it's interesting seeing these guys talk about, because he's representing Adam's representing that Jewish position, which is they don't see Jesus as the Messiah. They're ready to herald in the Messiah. And he's going to say some weird kind of wacky things out there, kind of like that Jews believe in reincarnation. I'd never heard of that one before. And I think since their eyes have been blinded for the last 2,000 years of not seeing their Messiah, they're kind of going off in some weird directions. But I think a lot of things that the Christians haven't been able to grasp the true interpretation of a lot of things in the Bible, because we don't have the Jewish people alongside of us helping us to learn them, helping us to rightly understand and divide the scriptures. Because there's been this schism, this split between Jewish people and Gentile people within, in human life, and the church has almost pushed Jews out, and that was the way that things are now. It seems like they're more divided than ever. But these guys represent it, because I don't know if I'm a different kind of Christian, it seems like, because I've went through my whole road, my whole way, and seeing things differently. I don't see things exactly in the same light that most regular Christians out there do. I do see things that the temple is a good thing. The sacrifices, the Old Testament is a good thing. The laws that God make are a good thing, and they still have lasting effect. I got messed up for a while because I started thinking that Gentiles needed to follow everything that God prescribed in the Old Testament and the laws that were given. Rather, God has always had, he made a specific covenant with the Jewish people, and he gave them all his laws. Gentiles were never to specifically take on everything that the Jews were commanded to take on. The Jews had a specific responsibility. So them talking about this, he's saying that it's really awesome that they've sacrificed the red heifer. They've done this, and this is to purify the way to actually build the altar, build the temple, to purify everything, because the sacrifice in the Old Testament is different than Jesus' sacrifice. It still had real effect in this world. It was a way for humans to come in contact with a holy God in this world, as mortal humans, to be able to approach the very holiness of God in the temple, in the tabernacle, and all that. So there was a specific purpose. It wasn't removing and taking away sin in the same way that Jesus' death on the cross did. Jesus' death on the cross, it doesn't even necessarily have to do with this world. It somewhat has to do with this world, but it's more about the new covenant, and the new covenant is going to be when Jesus comes back. And he comes back, that's when it's going to be fully realized. We're just getting a taste of it right now. But when he comes back, we're going to actually step into the full new covenant, and that's Jesus' death on the cross is actually not just covering our sins, but it's fully removing them, washing them away. They're as far from us as the east is from the west. It's no longer just covering us so that we can approach a holy God and removing ritual impurities or anything like that. And the Jews are still, that's how they're seeing everything. They're seeing, let's build this temple so that we can start communing with God again and doing what God commanded us to do, which they should rightly do. And that's what the whole Old Testament is about. It's talking about once you get, when the time of Messiah comes, when the Messianic age comes, there will be this sacrifices will be happening. They will be taking place in this world, this kind of like in-between world that we're going to be stepping into. It's not the full new heavens and new earth, but it's kind of like this in-between area, which is like kind of this age of 1,000 years, the millennial kingdom. So there's a lot going on, and these guys are coming at a different viewpoint than I am, and that's kind of like the difference between a lot of Christians. A lot of Christians don't see everything the exact same way, and they would see that the building of a temple and sacrifices by Jews, that's a terrible thing because Jesus came and he's the sacrifice, and all the other sacrifices, they were just kind of just shadows that pointed to Jesus, and now that we got Jesus, we don't need any of that other stuff. I don't think those animal sacrifices they're not removing our sin, but all they are doing is making us able to approach God in this world. That's all they were doing. And they were pointing forward to Jesus' crucifixion and pointing forward to his blood being shed for us. I know that's a lot of theology, but I wanted to kind of give that in them talking about this because I hope it makes a little bit more sense of why it is a big deal that the red heifer was sacrificed. And we've been waiting, the Jews have been waiting 2,000 years for this, and that it actually happened. And it almost went you could say they did something a little bit deceitful and like we're only going to do it this way. And the way he explained it and how he said that, how they ended up doing it, that did seem like it's kind of like, but God always, he uses human imperfection to accomplish his purposes. So, I mean, they might have did it from wrong ways and kind of just hiding the fact of what they were doing, but they still did it. They still did it. And it actually happened, and that is what's going to that is what makes it possible for the third temple to be created, and I believe it will be created. And then we see the whole Antichrist coming, and he will. We know where it goes from there. He's going to step into that temple and proclaim himself as God. So that is an eventual thing that it will happen, but. These things, they got to happen. You know, God prophesies things. God, I think, wants to make things crystal clear. He wants to make things like when Jesus was on earth, he over and repeatedly said to his disciples, yeah, I'm going to die. I'm going to be killed, taken by the sinners and crucified, but I'm going to be raised again. And he said that over and over to his disciples, but they didn't get it. But that's like God. He wants to make it clear. He wants to let us know that what's going to happen so that we're ready for it. He wants us to be prepared, that we aren't just children of darkness. We are the children of light. Nothing will take us without us knowing. We'll be ready for it whenever it happens. But I want to continue with what he says about the red heifer because it's very interesting.
They picked 7 to bring to Israel, and out of the 7, Israel only allowed them to have 5 brought in, and they've been sitting around just doing nothing because the media outrage has been so astronomical about it. But the red heifer people, they fooled everybody, and they successfully performed the ritual about a month ago. Now, in the ritual, you're supposed to have hyssop. I have also hyssop that is from the actual ritual, and also the red heifer ashes. And these get put into a clay jar and then sprinkled on people in a healing ritual. And it removes the impurity of death and allows for people to heal. So since this started, they have been sprinkling on people. There was a man with Alzheimer's who just started remembering everything, sight to the blind. There's some real miracles that have happened in the last month since this thing has gone down. But the ashes, just like I have a little bag, there was 10.5 gallons of ashes. And this is only a dime bag full. And these ashes have been disseminated. They're here to stay. They will never be found. So many people have them. And this little bag can power about 10,000 doses.
Power about, it's that makes it sound like really potent cocaine.
It packs a punch, yeah.
This is the stuff right here,
Test
man.
it for fent.
This is the, but
all right, so it's happened. A lot of these things, I thought we are really approaching something. So I think everybody should take notice. The times are upon us. The fig tree is blooming and blossoming right before us. Something is at the door, and I think we know who, and I think his name starts with Jesus. I guess his name starts, his name is Jesus, So I hope you are ready, because don't let this take you by surprise. I know I could say this all day long. The people that need to hear it will hear it. The other people, they're going to be just doing their thing, and it doesn't matter. You could take a megaphone and just yell it at them and whatever. They're not going to hear it. The people that are hearing this, you all need to hear it. So everyone get ready. I know so what Andrew Tate and what Nick Fuentes are talking about, they're talking about just politics, short game. Because this world is going to vanish in a blink of an eye, and this is all going to be a dream. So, and don't get caught up in the whole dream thing, but get ready for the real deal. And the real deal starts with Jesus, All right, we'll leave it at that. Follow me on X and Instagram. Smash that like button. Subscribe to this channel. My handle on X and Instagram is Brandon Fogel. Have a great day. Peace, everyone.